Hi guys, my name's George Gamble from Premier Sports Plays and SBR Sports Picks. I'm back again to dive into the stats ahead of the Euro 2020 matchups on Tuesday. In this particular video, I'm going to be discussing the last two matches in Group D. But first, I want to know, has your opinion changed in terms of who you think is going to go on to win this tournament? What is it that you've seen so far that makes you think they will be the ones to emerge victorious come July? Let me know in the comments. Also, before we begin, please give the video a like, subscribe to the channel and hit that bell so that you get notified whenever Mayo Media Network releases a new video, because you don't want to miss them. Now let's get into the action. First up, we have Croatia against Scotland taking place at Hampden Park. Now, this is a huge game for both sides, and both nations know that only a win will be good enough if they've got a chance of qualifying. And the Tartan Army have played exceptionally well in both games, but haven't managed to pick up a win yet. Meanwhile, you've got Croatia, who had to rely on an Ivan Perisic equaliser, a fantastic equaliser, I must say, to spare their blushes against an organised and threatening Czech Republic side. But looking a bit more into Croatia, as I've said, they're a shadow of the side they were in Russia 2018, where they were absolutely brilliant. Just look completely different. They played awfully, in my opinion. Back in Croatia, fans aren't happy with the manager, Zlatko Dalic, and it's hard to believe his side can play any worse than they have so far, to be honest. But they are favourites for this one. They're priced up at plus 125, and I can't help but feel it's due to Scotland seeming like minnows and Croatia being one of the former strong footballing nations. After that form they had in 2018, the fact that Scotland have not won a game yet, I think they're just looking at that and pricing it up that way. But you look at Croatia, they've now just won 2 games in their last 11, and that was at home to Malta and Cyprus. And with all due respect, they're sides that you should be beating. Any top nation should be beating those sides. So, yeah, it's very problematic for Croatia at the moment. They've also failed to score in their last 3 away matches, losing them all by 1-0 scorelines. And I know technically it says that Croatia are at home, but this is being played at Hampden Park, the ancestral home of Scotland. So it's going to be very, very tough for them, especially with all of those Scottish fans still buoyed by that result against England. And looking at Croatia as well, in terms of their kind of chance creation, they've registered just 1.6 expected goals across their opening 2 games combined. In those 2 games as well, they've got an expected goals against of 3.13. So they're conceding chances and not creating many of their own, which is not what you want to see if you're trying to qualify for the next round of a tournament. Going to Scotland, they've never lost to Croatia in the 5 meetings that they've had. They are outsiders in this match, priced up at plus 220 to go on and get the win. And they are yet to score a goal in the Euros, and that's something that urgently needs to be addressed. But I don't think you can read too much into that. Manager Steve Clarke, their best striker is probably Shea Adams, alongside maybe Lyndon Dykes, but I'd say Shea Adams just pips into that. He didn't start him in that first game against Czech Republic, and the chances that they made, he would have scored. I'm sorry, but he would have scored them. It was a very strange decision to leave him on the bench. And then against England, he performed really well. Shea Adams was one of the better players, and Scotland should have probably won that game at Wembley. Obviously, as an Englishman, very frustrating to watch my side, but I'll be talking about that a little bit later on. But yeah, the momentum does seem to be with Scotland, so they couldn't have really handpicked a better off-form opponent to play their final match in a group with home advantage. And this Croatia side just appears to have plenty of cracks in their armour and can really be got at. And if you watch that game against the Czech Republic, for example, Scotland's chances they created, yeah, Czech Republic obviously probably deserved it in terms of their finishing ability and the chance they created. Obviously that Patrick Schick goal is probably already goal of the tournament. I don't particularly see it being topped. But nevertheless, they made those chances, and I think they make chances against Croatia, a very slow, depleted Croatia side, who I think are going to struggle to keep up with the athleticism of Scotland. So the pick that I'm going with, I'm actually going with Scotland double chance, so they need to either win or draw the game, and under 3.5 goals, and that's plus 120 on William Hill or Unibet. Just to clarify, double chance, if Scotland win, we win that part of the bet. If Scotland draw, we win that part of the bet. But if Croatia win, then that loses. All we need is Croatia not to win. The other pick I'm going with for is both teams to score no at plus 110. And that can be found on various different sites at the same price. Why, you might ask? Well, both nations struggle to score goals. And it's hard to see this catch fire as much of a goal fest, and it could be a narrow win for either of these sides. It wouldn't surprise me to see a 1-0, maybe a 2-0 at a stretch. And Croatia are favourites, and probably rightly, but Scotland's odds are far too big. They should have scored a couple in both of their games against Czech and England. and they made a hatful of chances against England. And I do feel like they should have scored a lot more goals, and maybe third time's the charm. So, given the fact this is being played at Hampden Park in front of their own fans and everything on the line, I'm leaning towards Scotland, particularly with that price. I think the value is with Scotland. I went with Croatia to beat Czech Republic. That was a pun that I thought, just because I thought they had the superior quality. But they couldn't cope, as I said, with athleticism from the Czech side, and they couldn't cope with the work rate. They were left chasing shadows at some point, and it's something that Steve Clarke's side has in abundance. The likes of John McGinn, who is an absolute engine, and obviously got Billy Gilmore, I love Billy Gilmore. The way he plays football, just drifts into those pockets, collects the ball, very comfortable on the ball. Yeah, they've got athleticism in abundance, and that is something that Croatia are going to struggle with. Scotland had the better chances against the Czechs, and I think if there is a winner here, it could actually be the Scots. I think they could surprise a lot of people with their performance against Croatia, and I think it's going to be exceptionally tight. But I'd imagine Scotland will probably see the lion's share of possession and create those better chances. So I don't necessarily see Croatia going to Scotland and getting the win. As I've said, the last two wins come against Malta and Cyprus on home ground, and now they've got to travel to Hampden Park, which is a ferocious atmosphere. I think they're going to struggle here. So for me, the best bets here, Scotland double chance and under 3.5 goals, and both teams to score no. Moving on, we've got the Czech Republic against England at Wembley Stadium, the hallowed turf of Wembley. It's an interesting game. They're both in the top two. They're going to battle it out to see which one's obviously going to qualify where. And you'd argue that the runner-up's probably got the better result, given that the winner of this group will likely play one of France, Germany or Portugal. However, the runner-up will go head-to-head with the runner-up of Group E, which contains Sweden, Slovakia, Spain and Poland. Now, as I'm recording this, Spain are playing Poland, so what I'm saying is correct at the time of recording, before some games have been played. Obviously, the parameters of that could completely change by the time this is posted. But nevertheless, the runner-up in this group has a potentially easier task in terms of progressing further into the tournament. Looking at the Czech Republic, they have made a superb start to Euro 2020. They've been the surprise package, in my opinion, expertly picking off Scotland when they're up against it for large periods of the game, and then underdraw against Croatia. They also defeated England in qualification for Euro 2020, and they've got nothing to fear on Tuesday. And in fact, under 2.5 goals has landed in 4 of their last 5 away trips, and they've never beaten England at Wembley. Looking at England, Gareth Southgate, he can't really afford another poor performance. Otherwise, things might start to get a little bit toxic towards him. A lot of the media in the UK, pundits, journalists, fans alike, are all kind of gunning for Southgate in terms of his team selection, his tactical now seeming non-existent, like why we're leaving some players on the bench that are clearly exactly what we're crying out for, and then taking off our creative talents. So he needs to get it right here. But I do think there will be a lot of changes to this England side due to that pressure. I just think Southgate will look at it and think, right, okay, well, I need to change something here because that result against Scotland was not good enough. And I think they're going to need to if they're going to get the better of the Czechs in this one. Before the game against Scotland, England have got on the score sheet in 7 straight games. Their last 3 games in Wembley saw Gareth Southgate's side win by a scoreline of 1-0. So it's often very tight, very cagey, with very, very few goals scored. So my pick here is England or draw and under 2.5 match goals. And that's minus 119. You can get that on Betfred. Similar to the game before, we need England or draw. It's a double chance bet. So England either to win or the game to be a draw. We just don't want the Czechs to win. And as long as there's under 2.5 match goals, this would be a winner. Why? Well, England would probably be better off finishing second. And with the Czechs leading the way in the group, it wouldn't surprise me to see another drab display from this England side. And a lot can be read into the game with Scotland, but in fact, it was the Czech assistant, Shitry himself, and he's come out and said that, we're not reading too much into the performance that England had against Scotland. It was a derby, and therefore it had its own specific characteristics, which, as an Englishman, I do kind of agree with, but it was a very similar display to all the other games that we played. It wasn't like we were rampant against other sides, and against Scotland we struggled because of the occasion. It was largely similar performance. It's perpetual with England that they're low scoring and they struggle. We had chances, John Stones hitting the post and a few other chances as well, but we just looked really off it, which concerns me. However, I do think we'll at least get a draw in this game, in a very tight game. There's only been 3 goals in England's last 4 games at Wembley, and I don't think there's going to be the intensity given the group permutations. I just don't see intensity there for either side to want to get the win, if I'm being truly honest. And under 2.5 goals was a little bit short on its own, and I do see that happening. But England, whilst they're uninspiring going forward at the moment, they've been relatively strong or lucky, depending on how you want to look at it, at the back. So I don't see us losing the game, but I don't see an absolute influx of goals either. So for me, my best bet in the England against Czech Republic game is England double chance and under 2.5 match goals. Thank you for tuning in. I hope this video has helped you out ahead of those games on Tuesday. I'll be back soon to discuss even more games with you. But for now, take care. Hope the bets go well, and I'll see you soon.